So when I said that I didn't want a headset, it was because of my vanity, not wanting to look like Janet Jackson up here. And then I forgot that I was actually going to be showing you how I can juggle, because I have 7 items I should be holding. And here we are with only 2 hands with which to hold them. So are you sure you're in the right place? Okay. So that's who I am, and hopefully I've spent a lot of life living with a family of wild squirrels living in my brain, and having to overcome that and still get things done has not made me an expert who's standing in front of you like my whole life is absolutely together, and please take every single thing I have to say as if, you know, because I'm the expert. It's literally just I have had to overcome so much to be able to literally mail a letter. I have a standard operating procedure, an SOP, for how I mail a letter, and it has 42 steps on it. So if your brain works like mine, hopefully this will be helpful. And even if it doesn't, I hope that there's still a few helpful things in it. And again, I'm not an expert at any of this. It's just that I have had to overcome so much distraction in my life. Yes, due to some distractibility because of my many life pursuits, which I will say definitely does distract me from being able to be a master at some of them. But ultimately, I have made a life that I'm very proud of, and one that I truly do enjoy, and also allows me to do a whole lot of things simultaneously. Although I will tell you right now, the people that say multitasking is a myth are absolutely correct. What we're going to try to do today is cut through the noise so that when we are doing one thing, we're able to actually focus fully on that one thing and bring it to completion. Because if there is one thing in life I'm really good at doing, it's starting things. How many here are good at finishing things? Raise your hand. Okay, everyone else, wait, raise those again. We all need to be your friends. Okay, cool. So leave your phone number at the end, please. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go through a few things, and good night in heaven. I really didn't plan this well. Also, I would just like to, I would like everyone to really enjoy the PowerPoint presentation that my husband Adam made for us. Thank you, Adam, of No Trades. However, I had the forethought to screenshot each of the slides this morning because I don't know what the cloud is, but apparently that's where my PowerPoint presentation is. So that's why I'm now holding 17 items during this talk. And I also wanted to tell you that Adam made the PowerPoint because I definitely did not make a PowerPoint that has a bunch of pictures of myself on it. Okay, so now that we've cleared that up, I'm just going to actually bring this chair over because little known fact, I did a beauty pageant, scholarship program. Oh, no, please let me struggle. It's real. I did this scholarship program, Miss Montana is part of Miss America, a long time ago. And I tripped on stage, in addition to also screwing up every single dance move. But so like my greatest fear, I almost exploded my knee. I actually they used these spray-on nylon things, and they sprayed on 3 cans of nylons trying to cover my bruise for the bathing suit thing later. I wore a one piece. This is a family channel. So anyway, I'm almost guaranteed with all of my props to trip, so please be waiting for that. And a life goal that I have is to be on America's Funniest Home Videos, and we're getting there, I promise you. Okay, so today what we are going to do is talk about how to do many things simultaneously, but do all of them well. Well, not exactly simultaneously, but we'll get to that. So how many of you here played with Legos as a kid? Excellent. You're late for my class if that's what your alarm clock is ringing right now. I set 700 alarms a day, and I usually ignore them being like, why did I set that? And then pretty soon my nachos are on fire and Adam is mad at me again about causing another kitchen fire. So I brought some Legos today because it seemed like a good idea at the time. And I'll be totally honest, I'm gonna dump them out, but I actually also am super anal, and so I didn't want to dump all of my Legos out because I sort my Legos by color. and by purpose, and so I didn't want to mix them up and then have to resort them. So this is the unsorted ones that we're gonna talk about. But if you played with Legos as a kid, also if you're a parent right now, life hack if you don't already know it. Oh no, okay. The life hack is that you dump them out onto a cloth so that then you can pick up the cloth and put them all away at the same time. But if you're storing it in the cloth, that really doesn't work as well as I hoped it would for this demonstration. But anyway, see, these are the kinds of things that next time I'll know. But so we're going to talk a little bit about Legos today, and you'll find out why later. But in the meantime, if you get bored, please come and play with only these ones. Do not mix those ones up. Okay, so how many of you have homesteady type thing? What? Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness, hopefully there's only appropriate things happening. Good, well you can see what the last several days have been. We caught a swarm of bees. My goat accidentally impregnated some other goats. Kate St. Steer, who is over there doing wool demonstrations, so if you do get bored, she's right there behind us. Anyway, back to this. So sorry about that. Great. How many of you have animals right now? How many of you had infrastructure for your animals before you brought them home? Oh, okay. All of us chaos monsters, like these are also the kinds of people you want to be friends with. I have had chickens for 12 years. Every single year, I'm like, oh, you know what? The next time I get chickens, I'm going to build the chicken coop before the chickens come home. 12 years in, guess what I did this year? I was at the Chick Days Festival, and I was not planning on bringing home chickens because I hate chickens, but we'll talk about that not today, another day. And I brought home 100 chicks, and then I was like, well, 4 weeks is plenty of time to build chicken coops for 100 chickens. Well, guess what? It was not. So don't be like me. Be like everyone else who just raised their hand. So I think a lot of us, whether it's getting chickens or getting other animals too early, we get in a little over our heads. Maybe we planted we got really excited that we finally could plant a garden, and we planted a garden that was bigger than we were ready for. Or maybe we just were really good at saying yes to all the things, and we said yes to too many, and now we're wondering how the heck we're not going to disappoint everyone around us. And so as we're homesteading, I think a lot of us do it. How many people started homesteading because they thought they were going to save money? Oh, okay, so maybe you actually listened to some people. Maybe I just really need to listen to better advice better. How many think that you will be able to save money eventually? Okay, cool. And do we have a clear picture of what that's going to look like? Okay, great. All right, we're back on the same page again. All right, great. So how many people feel like they are often putting out the hottest burning fire and they don't have time to do the things that feel important, but we just can't seem to get on the schedule? Okay, a lot of us. And I'll tell you, again, this is something that I'm still working on. I am a work in progress. But today we're going to talk about practical ways that we can cut through the noise, ways that we can kind of minimize that chaos as much as possible. My friend Daniel Salatin, he gave such a great talk yesterday morning, and he said something that truly was very impactful, because it makes sense, but I've never heard anyone say it out loud before. But he said, if you're spending more than 30% of your time, and I'm not just talking about your day, but a lot of us work full time. How many people still work full time? Great, yeah. So say you only have 2 to 6 hours a day to do chores. Let's just say if you're using more than 30% of that time to do something that you're going to have to do again tomorrow, you're never going to be able to get ahead. And that was really impactful for me, because it's just it could even go beyond our homesteading stuff, our animal chores. It could go to our meal prep or whatever else. If we're having to spend, if we only have 2 hours at night and we're spending an hour of it making dinner every night, something's got to give, or we're never going to have time to do the other things that we really want to get to in life. And so we're going to learn how to cut through the noise, but we're going to learn how to identify what's most important to you and to your family, because It doesn't matter what everyone else on Instagram or, on the cover of Homestead Living magazine is doing. It matters what's actually important to you guys and your family and what's going to get you actually closer to your dreams. Because I'll tell you right now, I kind of happened into all of this by accident, and a lot of my friends are really, really successful influencers, which, by the way, I hate that term, except for the fact that they influenced me to do a lot of things that changed my life for the better. So good influence. I think let's use our influence for the good. But a lot of them were doing things that I felt some sort of pressure that I had to do, but weren't and so of course I did them because if I'm a man of all trades, I've got to do all the trades, right? But ultimately, they ended up taking more than they gave as far as my life went. And so I wrote an article this year that after having a conversation with a farmer friend of mine who had just taken on too much too fast and was so stressed out, was broke, and she just said, Ann, I just don't know, I don't know why I ever did this. And we don't want to make our lives harder. I always tell Adam that I'm making my life harder on purpose, but that purpose is because I don't want to be the version of myself that loves watching Selling Sunset on Netflix and really loves laying on the couch all Saturday, because neither one of those things get me any closer to the life that I really want to live. It's not I'm never going to shame anyone for watching Selling Sunset. It's awful, but I watched it, so. But you know what? It's and those things are okay. But if you're doing those things and therefore sacrificing, whether you realize or not, whether it's a conscious decision or not, that you're sacrificing the thing that you really want to get some immediate gratification now. I just don't want to be that person. So I want to continue to challenge myself, and this is also why I post on social media. Posting on social media is not so I can be famous. It's so that it's an accountability tool for me, and it's a community building tool so that I know when I press post, I hope at least that it's serving a purpose. It's either bringing people into my community or it's helping people get to their next step. I don't ever want to post something that is going to make someone feel shame, like they're not doing enough or like they should be doing more. And for anyone here, if you follow me on social media, if you feel like I am posting something, please send me a message. I love being wrong. I love getting called out. I don't want to be that kind of person. I don't want to be the kind of influencer that makes me roll my eyes. So we're going to identify what's most important to you, and then we're going to create an action plan that's going to help make what we want to see happen actually happen. So who here has a hard time making decisions? Yeah. Making decisions is hard because it's okay. We don't have to raise our hands for everything. I mean, we do want to air these out a little bit because it's real humid in here. But making decisions is difficult when we have when we have no clarity, when we don't have enough information. If we're standing in line at the barbecue place, it's do I want brisket or do I want burnt ends? Both of them could be delicious, but is this place? It could be, one could be better than the other, and that's a simple, tiny little choice. What about, do we get pigs this year? Do we get a milk cow? Do we plant another acre of a garden? What are we going to do, to get ourselves to the next step? And is that next step actually going to help get us to where we want to go? So a lot of us, I think, and I will say just me, I often make decisions by not making decisions. So because I don't have enough clarity, because I don't have enough information, I'm just this is actually a classic. I'm trying to find a new milk cow right now. And I'm always if it's meant to be, they'll message me back. But if it's not, then it's okay. It's never okay. Please message me back. This is completely unrelated to any of this, but if you need any barn cats, I wanted to start this by yelling about free kittens, but shockingly, I forgot. I have some kittens, so see me after. This is a shameless self-plug. By the way, the cat was a stray. Spay neuter your pets, please. They're very good mouse killers, though, I will say. And now I've lost track of what I was actually talking about. Decisions are difficult because if we have too many options, those options will cripple us. if we don't have enough information, or if we're just, we don't have any experience, it's also hard to make a decision, because what if? And what if is probably the one question that can kill our dreams the fastest. So when we make a decision and just hope for the best, I'd say that's a whole lot better than making a decision by not making a decision, because ultimately someone else is going to choose for us. So when Adam and I were in premarital counseling, he said that he was never going to get any goats. And if we have some. But if I had let Adam decide, this is not a marriage seminar, by the way, we can talk about all that stuff later, but if I hadn't decided that I wanted goats, then Adam was never going to make the decision that we're going to get goats for me, right? And conversely, if I hadn't decided to intentionally breed my goats or not breed my goats, if I hadn't put that little buck in his own little area to contain him, I would have, that decision would be made for me. And all of a sudden I would have 22 baby goats. And guess what? 22 baby goats is not 22 times better than one baby goat. And how do I know that? Because I collected the data for you. And now we know. So as we're moving forward, I want you to think about having so many options. And these Legos, when I dump out all my Legos, I want to look and see what building materials are available to me. I'm a very, very visual thinker. In fact, even when I was preparing for this talk, if you've ever seen me walking around with note cards and a little fountain pen, vigorously taking notes, I carry these around with me all the time. And I hope after today we'll actually get to that point in my presentation that you'll start doing the same thing. But with these are data collection. I love data because data makes it so much easier for me to make decisions, informed decisions. And making informed decisions helps me to make choices that are going to move me closer to my goals instead of unconsciously letting things take me further from my goals. I really want a horse. I mean, who doesn't? What little girl doesn't? I grew up in Montana, but a horse takes more care than all of my other animals combined. And if I get a horse, I don't get to keep my full-time job. But you know what? I will also need that full-time job to pay for the horse. So we gotta make informed decisions. I actually had someone offer to give me a horse, and that seemed like a great deal because horses are expensive. But you know what? Free horses are also very expensive. And I mercifully have learned some self-control. Thank you, Adam, for teaching it. Over the last 12 years. And so I said no to the horse so that I could say yes to all the other things. And so as I was preparing for this talk, I literally dumped out all of my cards. I read a lot of books. I take notes on every book so that if I find something that's a good lesson or whatever, and then I collate them all. And anyway, as I was prepping for this talk, I put out all my note cards around in a circle around me, just like you do when you're playing with Legos and you see, hey, what do I have here that I could turn into something? I think if we have unlimited options, if too much is possible, that actually is in itself a limiter. So I really, really like to encourage folks to take a really good hard look at what they actually have. And I say this in my channel all the time, use what you've got to get where you need to go. So we're gonna actually talk about a thing called time tracking. Time tracking is in and of itself a productivity tool. For 1 week, I would challenge you to carry around, I do it with these little note cards because they fit in my pocket, not in these pants because I tried to be a little bit fancier than normal, which is also probably why I'm gonna trip in these boots. But I carry these note cards and a pen. I don't do this on my phone because, as you've already experienced, pretty much every time I look at a screen, somehow I just become 10 IQ points dumber. And also, it's really distracting, and there's lots of fun, shiny things on there. And so I do this. I try to do as many things in the analog world as I possibly can. But anyway, for 1 week, if you could find something, a notebook, a paper. I also use a kitchen timer, but if you have self-control, please use your phone timer. Just don't let it distract you while you're doing it. And I write down literally every single thing that I do for a week. This is already, in and of itself, it's a huge productivity hack because we live in America and guilt and shame are our bread and butter. And so as we are like writing down, went to the bathroom, scrolled Instagram for 45 minutes, like the very thought of remembering that we're going to have to write that down will actually be a mental trigger to, hey, maybe we don't do that. So productivity hack is just writing it down, but if you can actually do this, where you walk around with a pencil and paper for a week, you can figure out that, and maybe you know what, I like to believe the best in people. I would love to believe that every one of you is not the same as me, but one time I got to the grocery store in 11 minutes. I hit every single green light on the way there. I pulled right into the parking lot, and I got the best parking spot, and like since then, I'm like, I've got to go to the grocery store today. It's gonna take 11 minutes, not the normal 42 minutes it takes, but like, no problem. And so I plan exactly 11 minutes, and guess what? It doesn't take 11 minutes. And so this is also a really great diagnostic tool to let you know that, hey, things take you a lot longer than you seem to think. Just in general. There's also a converse law that's called Parkinson's law, that things only take the amount of time that you give them, which I am constantly trying to use some Jedi mind trick to fit that in and make it true, but it's not. So anyway, I wanted to share with you one of my time tracking things because this was from April 6th, 5:30 a.m. Got up, made breakfast, slugged around, and did not do chores, and I did not feel good about it. 6:30 a.m. I called Kate, the modern day settler, who is, I love Kate so much, and she is the one person who makes me feel lazy. And so, anytime I really need my tushy kicked, I call Kate. So I called Kate. At 7 a.m., I started what I call my focus hour. I worked on my book. I felt very unfocused. I checked my email. That's a big no-no during focus hour. And I filled out a personality questionnaire. Okay, at 8 a.m., I called Adam for our morning meeting, and I made a plan for the day. 8:15, got distracted, literally didn't even finish the sentence, so really on track for a good day. 8:30, I had a Zoom call with one of my coaching clients. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this. I do work full-time. I have a marketing consulting company. Adam and I make YouTube videos. We do product development for some companies. We have a 8 to 10 hour work day that we've got to work every day in addition to all the other things that we're doing. And so all this has got to fit. So anyway, I had a call with a coaching client, and then at 9:30 a.m., this is very, sometimes I love writing with a fountain pen, but it doesn't do great in a sweaty pocket. 9:30, I came down to milk. Oh, okay, here it is. 9:30 a.m., I came down to milk, and the music video people that I forgot were shooting a music video at the farm were already down there. So that was a surprise. At 10 a.m., I had a call with Tractor Supply, who I sometimes do marketing consulting stuff with. At 10:50 a.m., I had a call with a company called Skillshare that we were doing a project with. At 11 a.m., I finally got out to do the chores that I was supposed to do at 5:30 a.m. I got dressed. I filled out our raw milk orders, and then at 12:40, Brittany showed up. And this is where my time tracking ends for the day, because Brittany showed up. We were supposed to shear the alpacas. As I was walking outside with my shears to go shear the alpacas, I looked up on the ridge line, and my bull, his name is Mike Bison because he moves like this. You can figure out the rest. I looked at my bull, Mike Bison, was up on the hillside, climbing over the fence into my heifer pen. And that was less than ideal. And so he's 2,400 pounds of, we call him a bison because he literally looks like an actual buffalo. As I'm running up the hill, I set down the clippers somehow. I'm running up the hill, I see like a fence post and a shovel, and I grab those because these are gonna be my tools to get this 2,400 pound bull as I'm sprinting up our 30 30% grade hill. And I then am like literally hitting him with a shovel, sorry, PETA, trying to like dissuade him from causing absolute mayhem on the farm. And I finally actually did, in fact, get him back where he was supposed to be. And it was at that moment that I looked at my clock and realized I was supposed to go pick up my piglets. But Brittany was only there to help me for 34 more minutes. And I was like, Brittany, I need you to help me pick up these piglets. The place to pick up the piglets is 14 minutes away. I bet you know where this story is going, but actually you probably don't, because we made it. So we picked up those piglets. Thank you so much, and that will be my crowning achievement. But here's the thing. Time tracking lets us know that the day that we had planned didn't go as planned. How many of us want to do any kind of homesteading thing as a business, or like make any kind of money or sell things, or like, whatever? We need to know how long things take us. We need to know every single step that's actually involved, because if you're going to sell eggs one day, you need to think about the fact that you had to set up a chick brooder. You had to drive those chicks home from Tractor Supply or wherever. You had to like feed and water them and snuggle them and take pictures of their little tushies every single day, as they were growing up. Every single minute of your time should be accounted for when it comes to selling your eggs, because just because someone hands you a crisp $4 bill for those eggs does not mean that you're making money. In fact, you're losing money. If you are selling eggs in 2023 for $4 a dozen, you are losing money, unless you're not, which talk to me afterwards. But we need to know where our time is going so that we can then make, ultimately what we're trying to get to is where we're building margins. So it's okay for some of these things to go right, because they're definitely going to go right. And if we have animals, we are definitely going to have some problems with our animals at some time or another. And if our day is so jam-packed that it has zero room for anything to go wrong, it's still going to go wrong, and then we're just going to end up being made absolutely miserable by the choices that we made, which is not the goal. We want to make choices that are going to make our life better, right? And we're going to get closer to our dreams. So time tracking is step number one. Get a picture. We're going to dump out all the Legos. We're going to see what we have available, and then we're going to pick from that. As we're time tracking, we're probably going to find some things that it's like, man, I did not realize that I was spending 42 hours a week taking pictures of tushies for Fluffy Butt Friday. I either need to figure out how to take that picture a little quicker, or maybe I don't do Fluffy Butt Friday anymore. Obviously, we're still going to do Fluffy Butt Friday, but we're going to do it quicker. Maybe less time in Photoshop. But, so I say all those things in jest, but literally, I want you to look at the things that you're doing. If you're spending all this time on chores, there's either a system you could build to make it go faster. I always use this example of carrying buckets. The hardest thing for me when we moved from 30 acres, swap that. The hardest thing when we moved from farming on 1 acre to farming on 30 acres was it takes way longer, 30 times longer, in fact, to carry a bucket across 30 acres than it did 1. And so, those are, that is so logical now that we're saying it, but I truly didn't think about that. I didn't think about how much longer it was going to take me to, move my animals a huge amount of physical distance. It takes me an hour to get, in the morning to walk my animals out to the rotational grazing pens. And so in busy seasons, I now know, I take that data to my calendar, and I'm like, hey, I know it's going to take me an hour to walk the animals out to the grazing pens today. Do I have that time, or am I going to, be okay with shifting my mind and know that I'm a good steward 99% of the time, but maybe today I have a really packed schedule and it's okay for me to leave the animals in the barn and give them an extra few flakes of hay, and they'll be fine, and my land will recover, and I don't have to do things perfectly every single time, but I have margins, or I have ways that I can kind of shift my ways of thinking for every single thing that I'm doing, so that it makes the things that I have to do possible, and it makes the things that I want to do probable. And so we start with that time tracking. The next thing that we do is we do the exact same thing, but for our finances. And with our finances, like we walk around and we write down all the money that we're spending for coffee or whatever else, or you could use QuickBooks, but once again, I'm not great with technology, and I always forget my password, and it just seems like a lot. So I just write it down. But getting a clear picture or some data that you can look at about your financial situation will also help you to think about to make decisions that are going to serve you financially. So, for example, a lot of people don't maybe they do know how long it takes them to feed their baby chicks, but they don't know exactly how much that it's cost to buy the stuff to build the brooder. Like every screw, every nail, every drop of glue you used, every single chick toy that you bought along the way, their little chick swings and picnic tables and everything. Do you have a clear picture of what it actually costs you for every single thing you're doing? Not necessarily because you're gonna save money or anything. Sometimes I'm like, holy moly, I did not know I was spending that much money on it. We probably shouldn't do this again. Because it's not valuable enough, or because it's not giving enough, or it's taking away from some other value. So also, the other thing that happens when we get a clear picture or the data that we need about our finances, we can then be like, okay, well, I know that to pay our mortgage, to make sure that I know what our absolute baseline is. I know what we're gonna be a little uncomfortable but still okay is. I know what it looks like to be comfortable. I know what it looks like to feel like it's okay for Adam to go buy a haircut instead of me giving him a cut with my alpaca shears, which, by the way, it looks great, doesn't it? And I also know, hey, this is what success looks like for me. And if you're able to actually have, again, cold hard data to look at with those things, then you can make decisions. So this year, Adam quit his job. He was very successful in his corporate career, but our marriage was in trouble, and so he decided to quit his job to focus on our marriage. And we could not have done that, if I hadn't started my savings account when I was 5 years old, but B, if we didn't have a clear picture of exactly what we had to make to be okay. And so the last 11 months have been really, really hard, and we've learned a lot. And I will definitely say that our marriage is a lot better than it was 11 months ago, and when this decision was made. We've had lean months financially, but we also are we're on the Venn diagram of what's actually important to us. Where are we willing to make sacrifices, and what is worth this one little life that we get to lead? Our time is very limited, and so having data though is also what's going to keep us from going massively into debt. Also being really secure in who you are and being okay with driving a 2006 Buick Park Avenue that was involved in a vehicular manslaughter and therefore was no longer sellable. So we got it for $2,000 and it runs like a champ. So but it's things like that. We paid cash for that car. We don't have a car payment. And therefore, Adam doesn't have to go to a job that he hated that was stealing from our lives. So data helps us make good, well-informed decisions that help us get to where we go. Oh, I forgot that I have a PowerPoint. Here it is. Let's just catch right up. Here we are, clarity through data. Here we are. Okay, so time tracking truly did change my life. It's not something, it's very impractical to do it all the time. I'm not saying start today and write down everything you do for the rest of your life. If you do, you're going to have a lot, your Google spreadsheet is going to be so full of really good data, but you probably won't have had time to make any decisions with that data. So I use this as a calibration tool. When I feel like my life is out of control, the thing that I do is I take either a day or a week or whatever it is to just kind of get a handle on things and really know where I'm spending my time. When I feel like our finances are out of control, I dump all those Legos out on the floor and I look at all the pieces. I was like, what can be cut here? Or what feels like it's taking away from these other things? Another this is completely unrelated to this PowerPoint presentation, please roll your eyes, I already see it. but something someone told me once was that money is a problem-solving tool. Our time is our only non-renewable resource. And so as we're here talking about our productivity and time management and trying to build the life that we actually want, or make time for building the life that we actually want, thinking about our time as basically our money is really, really helpful, because we use our, if we're going to work every day, with so many of you raised your hands, if we're going to work every day and we're working, we're trading 40 hours of our week or 50 or whatever it is to, for the benefit of having enough money to solve the problems that we can't necessarily solve ourselves. So we pay our mortgage because we need a roof over our heads, and some of us weren't able to build our house free and clear or whatever. So if we actually start thinking about our money as our problem-solving tool, that's also just going to help reframe our minds. But anyway, that's just an added bonus that just popped into my mind. But it really was helpful to me to start thinking about my time and my money as kind of very, very interchangeable things. Because the other thing, especially if you're going to be doing homesteading stuff as a business, that we want to think about is not just where is our time going and where is our money going, but also what is the value of our time as we're doing all of these things on our homestead. Because you might be able to raise meat birds for only $11 of actual input cost, but does that take into account that paying yourself $15-ish an hour for the time that you spent? And with that is really important to think about, especially if you're selling things, especially if you're using that money as a diagnostic tool to think about, is this endeavor on our homestead worth doing? Is this thing that's taking so much of our time and our effort worth continuing? Because one question that I always ask myself is so I am making my life intentionally harder to make myself not be, my laziest version of myself and all this stuff. But this has to be fun, more fun than anything else I could be doing, at least 50% of the time that I'm doing it, or what the heck are we doing? I don't, right now, I think McDonald's is paying $16 an hour. I've worked at a place like McDonald's before. That's how I paid my way through college. And honestly, it's not the most glamorous thing in the world, but there's been days on the farm when I'm you know what, I would sure rather be flipping burgers right now. And so I want you to also think about the way that you're spending your time in that, we are spending our time, we're spending our lives doing these things. Is it worth it? Okay, so, there's even a thing on here, thank you, Adam. It says change slide. Oh, great. That was the visual for that thing earlier. Can I get rid of this? Yes. Great. Okay. This was the proudest moment I've ever had on Photoshop. Thank you. I don't actually know how to use a computer. I know this is shocking, having watched me do all of this so expertly already. But I made this for a video, and my literally every YouTube expert that I'm friends with was could you please change that thumbnail? And I was absolutely not. Look at how cool it is. This video is about why it cost me $82 a pound to make butter, but also why I still choose to do it. Do I sell it? Absolutely not. First of all, it is delicious, but who's gonna pay $82 a pound? And also, it costs me more than $82 of my time and effort. I don't wanna be a butter made, a butter person. I actually do want to be a butter person. I want to eat enough butter that I turn into butter. But I don't want butter to be the only thing. I'm Anne of all trades, not just butter. So I don't want to get 40 cows to making my butter cheaper so that I can sell it for $6 to someone who is not going to appreciate that this butter came from Reba Milk and Tire, who has teats of gold and makes the best butter in the whole world. Okay? So that's just that. And doop. Also, shameless plug, if you want to find us on YouTube and shoot this video a few more views, we'd love it. So now, after we've got a little bit of this cold, hard data, I want you to also start making some more lists. What are the biggest problems that you're facing? When you walk out on your homestead, are you like everywhere you look, are you like, ooh, like, oh gosh, that's more stuff that I didn't do. Oh my gosh, that bucket over there needs to get picked up. Oh my gosh, like it is like there's 17 tarps on things that I said I was going to build something for. Sorry, Adam. I wish I knew a woodworker who could build some of that stuff, but unfortunately I don't. But once we've got some of this hard data, we then want to start making other lists. Every single problem that you see, I have a 2-minute rule. If it's going to take me more than 2 minutes to write it down, I'm going to do it right there when I think about it. Because crossing things off of your to-do list feels really, really, really good. How many people have ever made a to-do list? Did it feel good to cross things off it? Did it also kind of become a I didn't do it list? Did that feel good? Yeah. So now let's talk about how many minutes do I have left? Oh, do I have minutes left? Yes? Great. Okay, perfect. Good. So how do we then actually cross things off of our to-do list? I have this 2-minute rule. I make a list of everything that needs to be done. And this is now a running list, but I will tell you right now, like, how do we solve problems? How do we fix chaos? What do we do when our house is an absolute disaster? Do we clean it? So we maintain, or we restore control, we restore order, and so solving all of our problems, like getting control of all of the chaos in our life, is going to be done this exact same way. We're going to find a way to restore order. So I want you to make a list of everything that is in your brain. Every single time you feel that feeling of, ooh, I really need to. Our brains are great thinking tools. They are horrible storage devices. Every single thought that I have that is a to-do item, if it doesn't go on to one of these little pieces of paper and then and then something done about it where it gets on my calendar, then every single time I think about it, I feel more and more guilty. I feel more and more overwhelmed. I feel like these problems are totally insurmountable, and I don't know how I'm going to get out of this trap where I feel like I can never get ahead. And so once I've identified a problem, again, if it takes less than 2 minutes, do it right now. If it takes more than 2 minutes, write down that problem, but your next thing is write down the absolute smallest next step that you could possibly do to get closer to finishing it. You don't have to finish it, but literally, I will tell you, I feel overwhelmed, I feel chaotic, I literally create chaos like it's my job. Unfortunately, it gets in the way of me doing my job, but I feel that sense of overwhelm all the time, and the way that I get around it is actually not necessarily by doing everything on my to-do list. It's by getting the to-do list out of my head and onto paper, and then deciding, well, how do we make decisions with data, deciding what I need to do next to get it a little bit closer towards done. And so, because problems and things that we struggle with, they loom so much larger in our heads than they often do in reality. I'm trying to build a craft school right now. This project was supposed to take 6 months, and our opening date is May of 2020, so I hope you can all be there. Is like, if I put on my to-do list, finish the school, is that going to help me? No, but you know what will help me is I know every time I think about the school, I have like a bajillion things that come to mind, and getting all of those things out of my head and onto a piece of paper with like a next steps thing written for them is how I do it. And then this next slide, I think I'm going to go out of order a little bit. Oh, wait. Okay, I wanted you to see this picture. Good night, I almost fell. So do you see these boards behind me? This is my productivity system that works for me because, as we've already established, I'm not very good at computers. This is the way that I feel about computers. But this is based on David Allen's productivity method. So if you're a reader, or even if you like audiobooks, check out David Allen, Getting Things Done. He has a system that's the backlog, a board a system that's the backlog, the to-do, the doing, and the done. Remember how I told you how good it feels to cross things off your list? When that done board fills up, and I can look at the end of the week, like what I've actually done, like it makes me feel so empowered to then go out and to do more. But each one of these little, like, this was actually introduced to me by my friend Josh. This is not what David Allen says to do. He says to put things in folders, but like, if I don't see something, it doesn't exist. I'm sorry to my mom, but like, I had to put a picture of her next to my desk, which she really likes to look at, and she's like, oh, you're thinking about me. It's like, no, literally, if I didn't have that picture there, you wouldn't exist, and I would never call you, and it would be 3 months, and then, you know, here. So I have to, oh, look. Oh, I was like, tried to touch this. Very tech savvy, everyone. We're aware, thank you. Yeah, so if it's not in front of me, it doesn't exist. My friend Josh was like, okay, fine. If you can't do it in the folders where you can't see all those to-dos, make each one of those to-dos a sticky note. I really would love to be sponsored by 3M sticky notes, because I literally use like this many sticky notes every 2 months. But you know what? I went from feeling overwhelmed and like everything was impossible to getting a whole lot of stuff done. I kind of like, I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I would say that like a lot of you probably are here because you see that I do a lot. And then if I tell you like, and like the most question I often get asked, you know what I mean? The question I most often get asked is, how do you do everything that you do? And to be totally honest, I wouldn't be able to do any of it if I didn't have something like this help me keep track of it without absolutely going insane. And so I have a backlog. This is my list of all the open projects, all the things that I've one time thought about, you know what, I really should clean the garage someday. Am I going to do it today? Probably not. But someday I just want to be reminded that I have one so that I could walk through it and then maybe use it for cars. But Adam hasn't put his car in the garage since 2012, so yes. Anyway, but then this is the to-do, and the to-do list is like basically we look at the to-do list at the beginning of every week, and we say, hey, what do we think that we could tackle this week? And we intentionally select a few less things than we think is possible, because what were we talking about before? The importance of having margins. So then we put those things on our doing list, and that doing list for the week is sacred. We know that some other things are going to come up, but like we're not going to add anything else to that. It doesn't matter if something else is more important. We are doing the things that we have decided we're going to do this week. And so then we put them on our proverbial calendar, which is the next step. So we say, okay, this day we're going to do this. This day we're going to do this. This day we're going to do this. And we don't, the thing is that you're never allowed to move things. Like, you're never really allowed to swap things around midweek. But, like, so you take them from the doing to the done. And unless, and this is like, how many people are doing things like their spouse is helping or someone's helping sometimes, or are you doing it alone? I guess, who's doing it alone? Okay, and so everyone else kind of has some occasional help every once in a while. Like, okay. So if you have some occasional help, then a great thing would be to involve that other person in this and be like, hey, I am a regular human being. Sometimes I need help. Could you, like, if you see that something is staying on the to-do list for more than just the week that you put it on, ask for help. Because that's our other biggest tool. And like for me, I grew up with some learning disabilities, and so for a very long time, it was very important to me to prove to myself that I could do all of these things and that I was this strong and independent person. But like, you know what? You know what else is strong is being vulnerable and asking for help. Because, I'm not going to cry, so we'll just move right on from that. I've missed some slides. But ultimately, what I really, the thing I want you to take away from today is the value of data. And whatever that looks like in your own life is to adopt some kind of practice that helps you to get a clearer picture of what is going on in your life right now, like both time-wise and financial-wise, so that you have that data to help you make better decisions. Like, man, I hated working in tech. It was soul crushing for me. Every day that I was sitting at the computer, I literally was, we lived in Washington where the sun literally only shines 29 days a year. So when I was sitting in my office and I was watching like the beautiful blue sky outside, I was like, well, that's 28 days now that I'm 27. Great. That's 6, okay? And so, but so many of us have to have, like, we need money so that we can afford to pay our mortgage and things like that. And so we want to make our time that we're not at work as valuable and as life-giving and as intentional as we possibly can, so that it makes that other stuff that is, like, you know, not the most ideal thing worth it, right? And so I am always keeping a running tab of things that are in my way, things that I feel like are barriers to me getting, and, like, again, guess what? I keep it on note cards. But what those note cards don't end up being just like a file log of complaints. They ultimately become the thing that I use to actually build the system that's going to solve those things. And so, you know, if I write down over and over and over that I had to carry a bucket, then I'm going to look at, man, I'm spending 40 hours every year carrying buckets, because I don't want to spend $100 and stop for 4 hours to put in a water line. But if I know that I'm spending 40 hours a year doing that, then it's not that big of a deal for me to find some way to generate that $100 and that 4 hours, so that over the course of the year, I haven't lost an entire work week carrying a bucket and making it, like, knowing tomorrow I'm gonna have to carry this bucket again, and the next day and the next day and the next day, and those buckets are gonna be the things that are in the way of the things that I really want. I also make lists of things that make me really happy, like from a very little, I love drinking tea. So I have now incorporated into my daily to-do lists, like, time for tea. I have an alarm in my clock, my phone, that I often ignore, but I'm not supposed to. But I have an alarm in my phone that goes off right before golden hour every day, so that I can, like, stop whatever I'm doing. And even Adam knows, like, if we're in the middle of a meeting, it doesn't matter. I'm like, this is a boundary that I've set. I know that at exactly this time I want to walk out the door, and I have 15 minutes to walk around and to look at just to literally look in awe of the life that I have worked so hard to build, and to think about how thankful I am for it. And boy, howdy, even knowing that I'm probably gonna have to go back and sit in that computer chair after I'm done looking at all of my tushies and thanking the good Lord for them. Just animals, just to be clear. Listen, anyway, but that 15 minutes has changed my life, because I know how important it is for me to actually enjoy the thing that I'm working so hard to be able to have. And I think I would really encourage all of you to do that too, to take time to really, really, like, ponder what it is that you really appreciate about the things that you're doing, because then those things then go on my slide that's out of order here. The dream list, oops, boop, boop, boop. The dream list, because this is not a dream that I just, like, one day was like, oh, you know what, it would be really cool to build a craft school. Like, I worked 3 jobs for 8 years to be able to put the money in the bank to be able to buy the down payment on the supplies to build this building. And actually you'll notice this was taken at golden hour. I look in awe at that building, and I also look towards the hope of what I want to have done in that building, which helps me to get through the 3 years of permitting issues and other things that are ultimately the dream for me, which I have written down. And I'm like, this sounds like manifesting, but please tell me, like, it's not manifesting. It's just, if we are aware of what we want, it helps us to go there. If we know where it is that we want to get to, we can identify that next step. We can put that onto our board. We can make it part of what we're doing next, and then we can then go ahead and do that. I would love for all of you to take, like, an hour sometime with your spouse or with your family, and to think and to, like, literally come up with a list of things that would make you happy. Little things like drinking tea, to, you know, someday I want to own 30 acres and wake up every morning and milk my cow, who I have named in honor of Reba McEntire. That would be great. But I want you to come up with a picture of what that would look like, and then you can start collecting some data that will help you to get a better picture of how you're going to get there. If you want that 30 acres, where does it want to be? Like, does it want to be in Satan's armpit where it's very sweaty to do all of these things? Possibly. It definitely does for me. I love it here. This is like living in a sauna. I don't have to go in one anymore. And I get, think about all the toxins that we've released today while we're here together. But what does that want to look like? Do I want to have cows? Do I want to have goats? If you do want to have goats, I have counseling to offer. But let's see here. I just want to make sure we've got 4 minutes left. Ultimately, I've touched on all of these points here, and I just want to make sure that I didn't miss anything extremely important, because here we are. No, we're good. So ultimately, the last step on all of this is to put things on your calendar. Look at how much, look at the data that you've got. Look at what your dream actually is. Look at your finances, and then start putting things on your calendar. Have a weekly meeting, either with yourself or with someone else, where you actively decide, I am going to give this task this much time, and I'm going to do this next step. Identify what is the very actionable next step on every list. Oftentimes it's I'm feeling so stressed about the school, but literally the only thing that I can do right now to finish the school is schedule a meeting with my electrician so that we can make the electrical plan. So when I am feeling absolutely crushed by the stress of building my school, I can actually now back up and look at my little vision boards, or whatever you want to call them, and say, actually, no, I don't have to build a whole, I couldn't even. So now I've released myself from all of that pressure and all of that dilemma. The only thing I can do right now is call my friend Patrick, my electrician, and say, hey, can we have a meeting tomorrow during this 1 hour time slot that I have on my calendar to go over the electrical plan, and then I can schedule it, I can do it, and then I can cross it off my list. And that is how we are going to do the little things and the big things. And when things get too much, we ask for help. Does anyone have any questions that I can, comments, concerns? Bring those to me afterwards. We only want positivity here. Just kidding. Awesome. Oh, yeah.
What was the plan that you were talking about, the method where you have all the...
Sure. Okay, so it's from a book by David Allen called Getting Things Done. And he says to put these things in files. But what I was doing with these is actually also developed from something that we learned in the tech industry. It's called Scrum. There's a book called, and Scrum is the rugby thing where everyone gets together in a scrum. And so the scrum is literally the morning meeting where you decide what you're going to tackle together as a team. And so there is a book called Scrum, that getting twice as much done in half the time, that is fine, but also not super applicable to this. But just like my picture of the Legos, for me, it just gets all of the stuff that would be in a desk file cutely organized out in front of me where I need to see it. Any other questions? Yes.
What do you do when something's big and overwhelming that you don't feel like you have control of things like accidents or children or sick parents, like really big things?
Yeah.
That completely kill your sense of control already?
Okay, so she asked, what do you do when something huge and unexpected happens? And the answer to that is I usually have a meltdown, but that's okay, because you know what? Oftentimes, just like with toddlers, it's okay to have a quick cry and then to get up and to make a decision about what you're going to do next. But ultimately, I casually mentioned this in another context, but I have contingency plans for lots of things, and one of those things is if I have a clear picture of the data that I need in front of me at any point, I could, in the event of this is very relevant on our farm, I am extremely accident prone. For most of our marriage, if something bad happened on the farm, I don't think Adam would have known what to do about it. And he would have figured it out. He's a very smart and capable guy. But for a long time, I lived under a lot of stress. What if something bad does happen? Because no one's gonna be able to do all these things, and all these critters or whatever else, this garden that's relying on me, is then going to be suffering as a result of my lack of planning. So a really great thing to do is to go on a vacation. The reason that I say that, not when the bad thing happens, maybe be around for your family, that's important. No, but like right now, if you were to plan a vacation or a night away from the farm, that would force you to think through all of the things that you have to do every day so that you can, in a way that you can explain it to someone else. And then you'll actually have the chance to have someone do it for you. And then you will also be able to be like, oh, I didn't think to tell you this. Or they'll be like, wow, you should not have given me a 42-page document. I did not read it, which is what my farmsteader told me. And I said, well, that's why you didn't do any of the things I told you to do in your 42-page document. But having a standard operating procedure for what you do every day is super helpful in the event that you become incapacitated. You just need to have something to hand someone. But it's also super helpful for you to be aware of the way that you're doing things, because that actually also points out all the ways that you're doing things really, really inefficiently. Because if I have to write down, actually we had this the other day with Adam, I was explaining to him how I feed the pigs, and it took me 10 minutes to explain to him like how to feed the pigs, and it's like you literally just dump some food in there and they still are alive at the end of it. But like it made me think about the way that I'm doing it. So I was like, instead of me taking I put the foam from the milk, because after I'm done milking, and I put it into a bucket, and then I like add water and I soak it for the pigs. Like those are the kinds of things that end up being super, super inefficient, but it's like no problem for us to do it because we're like, oh, we're gonna do this. They're gonna have a sweet little cappuccino on top of their pig food every day at 5 minutes expense to me every single day. But yeah, literally writing those things down gives us that. And then the other thing is I also have contingency plans for everything that I'm doing. Like we do rotational grazing. I had a really, really, really hard year personally, and I didn't have the energy or like the physical ability to be out in the field every single day moving fences. So I created a backup plan. This is not sponsored, but chaff hay is right here behind right behind us here. And chaff hay is a product that I actually developed because of that I started using because of one of those contingency plans where I feed we grow hay. I sell hay. I still buy a semi-truck of chaff hay every year because I know that I can store it outside. I know that it's like perfect nutritional availability for all of my animals. I have money-making ways to offset that expense, so it's not just me like, but right now, I'm not rotationally grazing my goats because I realized that though the stewardship of the land and everything is really important to me, and their milk tastes 1% better when they've had exactly enough brush for the week, but I just couldn't spend that hour every day. So you know what? My goats have a heavy use area that I scoop out once a week, and I've saved myself 5 hours a week by not walking them up to the pasture. And so it's those things that it's is that forever? I hope not. But also they're goats. So you know what? If you're having trouble managing your time, get rid of your goats. That's I should have we didn't even have to have a whole hour presentation here. But yeah, that contingency plans, but those SOPs are great for developing better practices too. Anyone else? We're over now, so you're released.